They are called entrepreneurs. And every once in a while, you meet a person whose natural and inevitable lifetime calling is to be exactly that, an unrelenting changer of the trajectory of history. And that's the best way I can describe our next speaker. Please help me welcome Peter Sage.
Thank you. Wow. Good afternoon, Anarchapulco. Okay, you guys have been here for a few days now. Yeah, you've been settled in, and I do have to ask the question before we get going, because I know it's after lunch. They've put me on the graveyard slot because they know I've got a little more energy than usual, and I'm always excited. For those that have met me, you know that. But the question I have to start with, guys, is, are you with me for the next hour? Yeah, come on, are you with me for the next hour? Yeah. Okay, because if you are, I promise you that the journey that we're going to take, if you allow it to, is going to have a profound impact on the person who leaves here afterwards, as opposed to the person that walks in. Because what I'm not about is information. Most people today are drowning in information, but they're starving for wisdom. And when we realize that transformation is the only thing that counts in a world of noise, then you really start to become a little more, dialed in on where you put your attention and what you allow in. So I'm very grateful for the next hour or so that we have this experience together, that you're going to allow me into your awareness, and I promise you I don't take that lightly. Now I'm going to take you over some concepts, I'm going to take you on a journey, I'm going to reveal some of the stuff in your own minds that is going to be confronting and challenging for some of you. I make no apologies for that. And if you disagree with some of the things I'm going to share, then that's okay, because that's what makes things happen. But I can promise you, I went after the information I'm going to share with you today with an absolute passion. And it really was answering the question, why is it? Why do so many people with so much potential that are born in a time in human history that our ancestors have dreamed about never really get the bat off the shoulder and take a swing at life? And why is it you can see other people that have absolutely no resources? They come from, against all of the odds, but they go out and create magic that the rest of us look at and think, wow, why is that? And that's really what I want to look into today. Now, I'll also start by saying this, that when Jeff first asked me to come and speak here, he says, oh, come speak at the Anarchapulco conference, to a big room full of anarchists. I hadn't really been into the anarchist kind of philosophy, because my understanding at that time is I thought that anarchists were the kind of people you see at the G7 summit throwing barriers. And so I was a little hesitant to accept the invitation, to be fair. What kind of security detail am I going to have? No. But I've got to say, guys, coming here and having had so many conversations and seeing you guys and interacting over the last several days, and some of you that I managed to speak to before at the TDV summit as well, I have never met a more progressive, forward-thinking, high-consciousness group of people in my life, and I just want to say I'm exceptionally honored to be here. My usual tribe that I talk to are entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are free thinkers, and you guys are exactly the same. You're free thinkers, you're just going against a different level of status quo. Many of you entrepreneurs in your own right as well. But for me, how I started out is, I dropped out of school at 16. I've got no formal qualifications. I couldn't spell PhD. And for me, I realized that school essentially taught you just two things. It taught you how to pass tests and work for somebody else. And neither of those were going to be on my agenda. So I got out of there like a rat up a drain pipe as fast as I could, and I decided to go out in the world and really try to make my own way. And I had really nothing. I came from a working class parents. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. And I just started my first business at 17. I tried, failed many times. And since that, I think there's been 25, 26 companies somewhere around there. Some have failed majestically. Some have wiped me out completely. Some have been international global success stories, and some really, if I'm honest, should have stayed ideas when I was drunk. And everything in between. But through that journey, some of the things, especially in the early days, became very apparent. And that is that most people spend their entire life chasing success when what they really should be chasing is fulfillment. And the two are very different. And I noticed, especially in my early 20s, where I was working 130 to 133 hours a week, doing what I was called chasing the more. You know, oh, don't worry, when I get my first million, I'll be great. So guess what, I make my first million, and guess what, am I still happy? No, not happy yet. Why? Because now I need to make a second million in case I lose the first. Oh, when I get my first Ferrari, then I'll have made it. And everyone will be happy for me. That was a big lesson. No, everybody hates me. And I'm still unfulfilled because I'm trying to validate myself externally when you can only ever validate yourself internally. And what I noticed was that many people are suffering from what I call the curse of the white rabbit. Go, ooh. Oh, come on. Ooh, there you go. Sounds like a Stephen King novel. No, the curse of the white rabbit. Let me explain. How many people here are familiar with like a dog track? Yeah, where the greyhounds run around the track, yeah, and people bet on the dog tracks. Yeah. So, quick question for you guys. Do the dogs ever catch the rabbit? No. Why not? Rabbit's too fast. What if the dogs run super fast? Do they ever catch the rabbit? What if it has a really good trainer? What if it has a better diet than the other dogs? Sleeps in a better kennel? Is any of that stuff going to make a difference to whether the greyhound catches the mechanical rabbit or not? No, not at all. Why? It's a rigged game. Yeah, who said that? Yeah. So, what's your name? Say again? Oh, Dave? Andre. I like to reward participation. So if you'd like to come forward, I'd like to give you a copy of my latest book, The Inside Track. On that, let's say thank you for interacting here and not falling asleep back away. Give a hand, thank you.
Very smart.
Let's guess, it's a rigged game. In other words, the dog, no matter how fast the dog runs, it will never, ever catch the rabbit. Now, we get that, we understand that, but what's that got to do with ourselves in terms of the game that we're playing? Well, unfortunately, most of us are trying to catch the rabbit of fulfillment by running on the track of achievement. I'm going to say that again. Most of us are trying to catch the rabbit of fulfillment by running on the track of achievement. And unfortunately, the game is rigged where that will never happen. Yeah? I've worked with people that are worth $700 million that are miserable as hell because they're not a billionaire yet. It never ends. So we have to look at the game slightly differently. And can you imagine? Yeah, one of the greyhounds gets to the end of the race and he says to his other greyhound friends, "Do you know something? I've run 3 races this week. I've won 2 of them, still never caught that damn rabbit, I quit. Yeah, that's it, I'm done." No. What state are the dogs in at the end of the race? They're happy, they're ecstatic. You see them, they're alive. Why? They got to do what they were born to do. They're born to run. See, entrepreneurs are born to build businesses. That's what we do. But if we're linking our happiness to getting what we think is at the end of that, then we're screwed. Because you cannot ever catch the rabbit of fulfillment by running on the track of achievement. And have you noticed, whenever you catch the rabbit that you think you're currently chasing, how long does it make you happy for? A moment, a few days, a week, and then what happens? You crash. But then guess what happens? We have an idea. Oh, maybe it's another rabbit that I need to chase. And that little white fluffy tail comes out again and we go after the game. And sometimes we're like, no, you can't convince me of that. No, I just know that as soon as I have enough money to solve all my problems, then I'll be happy. And if I've just got to close this next deal, and that little white fluffy tail's like 2 inches from your nose, have you noticed that? It's like, let me just get it. Right? I've got news for you. It's never going to happen. The game is rigged so that it's never going to happen. And as soon as we start to come to terms with that, we can start to play a different game where we can experience fulfillment without linking our self-worth to our net worth, which is the biggest mistake that most people make due to indoctrination from the media and everything else. So how do you break the curse of the white rabbit? Very simple. You come to the eventual realization, my friends, that you already are that which you seek. Let me sit with that one for a minute. You already are that which you seek. No, I just need to make my next mortgage payment, pay off my house, make sure the kids never go and get in trouble, and then I'll be happy. No. What you're saying is you've set up a whole bunch of rules around what has to happen in order for you to give yourself permission to validate yourself as a parent, or as a business person, or as a homeowner. And until those rules happen, you're going to choose not to be happy. Everybody follow that? What kind of operating system is that? Now, that doesn't mean to say that we go into apathy. That doesn't mean to say that we don't have desires. As I said, greyhounds are born to run. Go do what you love. Go chase what you need to chase. Go work where you need to work if that's what you need to do. But don't do it to validate yourself or try to get out of the maze or thinking at the end of some magical rainbow that it's all going to be great and you'll be happy. Because the only place in the universe that time means anything is in the mind of a human, and the only time you could ever be happy is when. Now, so why would you want to be happy not now? So that's the question. So how do you shift gears along that? Well, I'll share with you one of the most profound questions that Einstein said. He said, or one of the most profound statements, he said that you cannot solve a problem at the same level of thinking or consciousness that created the problem. Anybody remember that quote? Yeah? Beautiful quote, but most people don't understand what it means. So I want to give you a bit of a framework today that you can leave with that'll allow you to make sense of something that a lot of people talk about that very few people understand. And that's the incredible 13-letter word called consciousness. See, if we go into biology reduces consciousness to a byproduct of brain function. And unfortunately, that hypothesis is never and will never be proved because the brain doesn't produce consciousness any more than a television produces programs or radio produces music. That's just not how it happens. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the ultra-esoteric aspect where consciousness is this nebulous sort of esoteric level of connection to the divine, and we all sing around and love each other and everything else. And while that's infinitely better than slicing and dicing frogs in biology, it still doesn't give somebody a practical framework for understanding what is essentially our experience of life. Because I'll tell you right now, guys, if you've not yet figured it out, the only thing that you can do in this lifetime, the only thing, is experience. In fact, I'll even go so far as to say the only thing that you can experience is the act of experiencing. Everything else is noise and story in the outside world or in the mental construct. You follow me? Everything else is not. I don't care what you've got going on in the outer world, that's just noise that you're interpreting in order to validate how you experience life. Two men sat behind prison bars, one saw mud, the other saw scars. See, the condition is identical, but how you choose to perceive what happens is the ultimate governing factor as to how you interact and live your life, or experience this reality. So if Einstein said that you cannot solve a problem at the same level of thinking that created the problem, how do we navigate that? Well, anyone here yesterday saw Sasha Day Game's presentation? Yeah, you're here, brilliant, great presentation. What he outlined on the screen was, in fact, here he is, hey Sash. Yeah, what he outlined on the screen was a delineated level of a map of consciousness from the late great Dr. David Hawkins that wrote the incredible book Power versus Force. And that is a little, it's a deep dive into understanding levels of consciousness, but it's 16 levels, and the brain tends to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, too many. So I want to chunk down that model into something that most of us here will be able to grasp, if you'll permit me. And this will answer a lot of questions about how you interact with people. It'll answer a lot of questions as to why your kids are the way they are, why the person who you live next door to at home is the way that they are, why you are the way you are in certain situations. And it's a very easy framework. but if you allow me to share it with you, there's a lot of wisdom there that I think will allow you some practical application when you leave here, and that's really my goal today. So, if we have a situation where the lowest level of consciousness, I want to label that because the mind works in labels, is what I call the level of to me. And to me kind of works this way. Well, you know, I'd have everything that I want. Yeah, I'd have the partner of my dreams, I'd have the job of my dreams, I'd have the house that I want. But you know something? Everything happens to me. It's the excuse mentality, it is the victim mentality, it is sitting outside the game of life on the sidelines, blaming everything inside the game as to why it's not going your way. Now, the to me mentality is a really sucky place to live. Anybody found that out? Yeah. If you're in to me, I've got news for you. Life is going to give you feedback that that's not why you're here. And so, what's the next level? The next level of consciousness is where we realize that instead of standing on the side of the river complaining at the temperature and that the magnificent cruise ship with a first-class ticket hasn't come along and picked us up yet, and that our life owes us a living, we think, you know something, this ain't working. I'm going to get in the river, I'm going to set my goal, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to swim. Because if life is going to happen, it's going to happen by me. And by me is the next level of consciousness. Now, by me is what's typically termed as the achiever mode, or the achiever mentality. And it is a lot better and is a lot more functional than to me. To me victim mode, life's going to keep giving you shit. By me, get out there and make it happen. And so you start to carve your way out of into life. Now there's another level above that, because I can promise you, by me, while it's far more superior to me as an experience of life, has anybody noticed it's a little bit exhausting? Right? Yeah, getting in by me is like swimming upstream against the current, but I'm going to do it. There's a lot of willpower involved. There's a lot of gritting the teeth, elbowing your way through the crowd. I'm going to make it. It's hard work. But if you look at some of the greatest people in history, some of the greatest achievers who understood and cracked the code of the next level is what I call through me, where life flows through you. They didn't really have that going on. For them, it was effortless. You take Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world, one of the world's first billionaires in the 1800s. Figure that out in today's inflation. He was a steel magnate, Scottish guy. Got to the office at 10 o'clock in the morning, took an hour's lunch, went home at 4, didn't work weekends, took 3 months off every year and went to Scotland, ran one of the biggest companies in the world. Without faxes, emails, cell phones. Yeah. Why? He understood how, through the US, he was part of one of the secret societies, he was part of the Brotherhood, and a lot of the secret societies that have come through history are really guardians of the knowledge of how to work and get to a place of through me, rather than keeping the masses in the crowd in to me and by me. Kind of what Sasha was saying yesterday. Does that make sense? So, there is another level above to me, and that's really where the spiritual masters arrived at and taught from, and that's the level of what I call as me. And as me is where you see yourself in each other. Yeah, you see yourself in the stage, you see yourself in the tree. There's no separation. Maybe in deep states of meditation or on plant medicine journeys, some of us have experienced moments of as me. But it's not really a state that we live in, and I assert that if we're here to learn and grow, if you reach the level of as me, you've kind of qualified here, and you don't need to be here anymore, so expect a bus to come along and take you out of the game. So the question then is this: what has to happen for us to go through those levels? What has to happen for us to go from to me to by me, from by me to through me, or through me to as me? Because if we have a little bit of understanding and conceptual awareness around that, maybe we can do something about it and not get trapped. Would that be useful to know? Still with me, guys? Cool. So, save your applause for the next speaker, it's all good. So what do you have to do to get out of to me and get into by me? There's something you've got to give up, and there's something you have to replace it with. What do you think you've got to give up to get out of to me? First thing. Me. Fear is a byproduct of living there, and fear will certainly put you there as well. But what have you got to give up? Blame. I promise you guys, blame doesn't work at any level. And when I say at any level, I'm talking about you don't make excuses for gradients of blame. Well, I was sat at the stoplight and I was doing well, and that idiot behind me is the one that hit me. If you don't take personal responsibility for everything that happens in your life, you're going to pick and choose and cherry pick your way from to me to by me, and it doesn't work that way. Does that make sense? All right, first part of professional growth. If you want to get out of to me, give up blame and replace it with personal responsibility. If you can do those two things, the doorway opens and you can raise your consciousness to a different level. But as I said, by me is exhausting. By me takes a lot of effort. What do you have to do you think, to get into through me? Because that's the sweet spot, guys. That's why I spend my life teaching. This is what, I talk about stress-proof profession. Yeah, and what I do is I really help people get from the by me to the through me level, because that's the journey that I took. Most of personal growth, most of personal development is focused on getting people from to me to by me, if you notice that. All of the motivation. You know, get your thumb out of your ass, get off the couch, set goals, go get them, cowboy, you can do it. It's all about, stop being a victim, take responsibility, go live the life that you want to live, go carve it out of a tree. That's 95% of personal growth. Very few people are talking about how to get from by me to through me. But one of the first things one has to give up if you want to make that transition. Any ideas? Control. I wouldn't say control itself, although it's almost bang on. I would say give up the need for control. Two are different. Any control freaks in the room that just had a heart attack? Okay, yeah, I'm with you. So giving up the need for control. Now, why would you give up the need for control? It comes down to another one of Einstein's most famous questions. He said, the most important, not the second most important, not the third, not if you're bored, ask this on a Sunday. No, the most important question a person can ask in their lifetime is, do I or do I not live in a friendly universe? Think about that. It's one of the smartest people of recorded history. Because the answer to that question is binary. And that leads to two very different lives, my friend. If you believe you live in a hostile universe, you are going to come from a default fear-based mentality. Why? Because everything out there is trying to get me. Everything with teeth can kill me. I'm separate from, I'm disassociated. That's the government indoctrination. Right? That's the Darwinian mentality, survival of the fittest. Now that's a by-me way of living. But if you believe that you live in a friendly universe, you look at life through very different experience lenses. See, me personally, now I'm what they call an inverse paranoid. I secretly believe that the whole universe is involved in a hidden conspiracy to make me happy and successful. And that, yes, big one, right? So you will only be able to give up the need for control if you don't trust something else. So giving up the need for control and replacing it with trust, faith, knowing, and the three are different. Belief in something, a belief is nothing more, my friends, than a feeling of certainty. That's all a belief is. How fast can beliefs change? In a heartbeat.